Hi, and welcome to the extension topic on multiplying algebraic fractions. By the end of this video, you should be able to multiply algebraic fractions together. So let's take a look at what we mean. When we multiply fractions in general, we first need to check that if there is a common factor first, and then we can multiply the numerators together and then the denominators. So let's look at 4 examples here. We're going to start with the yellow side first and then go into the blue. The yellow side are numerical fractions. These are fractions that you would have done in year 7, and we're just going to remind ourselves how we would go about doing it. So in that first fraction, we're looking at 1/3 times 2/5. Now our first step is to check if there are any common factors in both the top and the bottom, in the numerator and the denominator. There is no common factor. What that means is that there's no common number that can divide evenly into the numerators or into the denominators. So we just multiply across the top and across the bottom. Our new numerator will be 1 times 2, and our new denominator will be 3 times 5. This means that 1/3 times 2/5 is going to be 2/15. When you look at the second example, however, we do have a common factor in our numerator and our denominator. We're asked to do 3/4 times 2/7, and we notice that we have a common factor of 2. That means that 2 will divide evenly into one of the numbers in the top and one of the numbers down the bottom. So if I do that division, if I divide them both by 2, I will get 1 at the top and 2 down the bottom. This is called cancelling, and it makes our multiplications a lot easier. See, now what I get is 3 times 1 as my numerator and 2 times 7 as my denominator, giving me a final answer of 3/14. Now what we're going to do is introduce some algebra into these fractions. It doesn't change the process or the steps that we go about. It just gives us a sort of different kind of answer. We just need to make sure that we understand all the processes and steps that have to do with algebra. So looking at a/6 times b/3, we want to multiply these two fractions together. So my first step is to see if there's any common factors, any numbers or pronumerals that will evenly divide in both the numerator and the denominator. And in this case, there's not going to be, because I've only got pronumerals as my numerators and only numbers as my denominators. So I'm just going to multiply the a times b from the top and the 6 times 3 down the bottom. This gives me a fraction that is ab over 18, because a times b is ab and 6 times 3 is 18. That is as simplified as it gets. There's nothing else that you can do with that. Now we're going to look at our final example for the video, xy/6 times 4/y. And immediately we should be recognizing that there are some common factors in our numerator and our denominator. For instance, there is a common factor of 2. I can divide both the 4 and the 6 by 2, and that will cancel out some 2's in my fraction. What you might also recognize is that there is a common pronumeral as well. The y's are common, and I can divide both my numerator and denominator by y to simplify my answer or my question. So let's take a look. First of all, I'm going to divide both my numerator and denominator by 2. I can see that there is a common factor, and I'll get 2 on the top and 3 down the bottom. Now I'm going to divide both my numerator and denominator by y. Now what you'll notice is that I've left a 1 in my denominator. On the right hand side you'll see that there's a number 1, but there's not a number 1 in the top left hand corner. Now the reason for that is when you divide something by itself, for in this example y, in the top left hand corner I will be left with a 1 technically, but that will leave me with 1x. And whenever you have 1x or 1 of any pronumeral, we can write that without the number 1 in front of it, and it's just going to be x. On the denominator side, however, on the right hand side, I have written a 1 because when I cancelled out the y's, it would have left nothing there. And I didn't want to get confused and accidentally think that that was going to be a 0. So when I divided my denominator by y, I got a 1 and I left it as 1. This means that when I multiply my fraction now, I get x lots of 2 at the top and 3 lots of 1 down the bottom. This gives me a final answer of 2 times x, which is 2x over 3. And that's the simplified answer. So what would I like you to do now? I'd like you to pause and summarize the examples that are on the screen right now and get ready to watch the video on dividing algebraic fractions, because that's going to take you to the next step. And that's it. For this video, you should be able to multiply algebraic fractions, at least know the steps and processes. Now you need some practice. Good luck.